And hello, welcome, thank you if you're still here and you haven't clicked off this video yet. So what you just saw in the opening cinematic sequence was all shot using this tiny little wide angle, or ultra wide angle, should I say, lens by Meike, or Meike, however you want to call it. It is the 12mm f2, and this is for the Fujifilm X mount. Everything was shot on this lens using the Fujifilm X-T5. Apart from the clips that have the lens in the frame, I only have one copy of this lens. So those were shot on the Minolta 50mm 1.7 vintage manual lens adapted onto the Fuji. And of course the opening shot, which was a drone shot where I used the DJI Mini 3 Pro. Coming up in this video, we will see how it performs photographically as well. So I'll share a few shots that I have taken with this lens. We'll see a bit more vloggy video stuff for that coming up. Firstly, we have to say this is a cheap lens. I bought it brand new for, I think it was about £150. That's pretty cheap for a lens, but of course, when you spend that little on a lens, is it actually any good? This is what it feels like is a mostly metal construction lens. You can tell by its weight in comparison to the size of the lens, because it's such a small, tiny little lens, and it just looks a lot more premium than you would expect for a lens of this price. You do see a lot of reviews on the 2.8 version of this lens. This one comes down to f2, so that's an added bonus. The focus ring has a really nice dampened feel to it. You know, it feels premium. It doesn't feel rickety or wobbly or anything. It feels really well made. The aperture ring is a clickless aperture, so it's just a smooth turning motion, which I would prefer to have a clickable aperture ring, but it's great that it has an aperture ring in the first place. And some people will say, well, for video, it's really good to have a declicked aperture ring. However, anything that you're shooting properly, I don't mean like vlogs or anything, but anything you're doing properly in terms of making a movie, you shouldn't really be touching that aperture once you've set the scene. Me and my mate Mikey, we did go out for some photography fun down to the local beach to take a few shots at sunset, which is, you know, typical what you want to do to try and get the best out of this lens, and to see how I could even cope with it myself, because I'm not used to shooting so wide. So that was a challenge for me, both in photo and video. Oh, something like that, that's it. pebble I can chuck in the water. I'm gonna just get one of these. Get this fucking rocket. Just gonna get this shot in. I'm just gonna go. The problem with having no clicks on the aperture, it's a lot easier to accidentally knock it. Even though this is well dampened, there is a good resistance to it. You could still accidentally knock it and it just starts to move slightly, and before you know it, you thought you were on f2 and you're nearly at f2.8. So I would have preferred a clicky aperture. The thing about this lens is look how close I can get. Right, let's take a shot. There you go. You're not going to get the sharpest, most clinical image out of this lens, but that's the charm of it. Of course, you're going to get, as you can see, there is some distortion, but there would be in ultra wide angle lenses anyway. You can't get away from that. And the thing I noticed the most, especially when you're shooting stills, is there is heavy vignetting at the widest aperture, f2, f2.8. Even when you start stopping down a bit, you're still going to see quite a bit of vignetting and softness around the edges still. It does get sharper, of course, just like every lens when you start stopping down. But, you know, again, it depends. Everyone's got a different opinion on vignettes. It's not a deal breaker at all. And in my opinion, it's definitely worth buying, and that's because it's so cheap. If you like that ultra wide look, it's just at that perfect, I think it's at that limit. I wouldn't like to be any wider than this because it starts to really bulge out and you start to go into fisheye territory, don't you? I think this is the true widest here at 12mm, 18mm full frame that I would like and can deal with. So back in the summer, we also went down to a place called the Low Lighthouse in Burnham-on-Sea. It's a very picturesque area. It's a very popular area for photographers as well during the sunset. Of course, this lens is far from perfect, but who would expect a perfect lens for 150 quid? So in conclusion, I don't think anyone would pass up an opportunity to own this lens.